In other news, US President Joe Biden used his final United Nations speech to defend his foreign policy achievements and also urge people not to grow weary in the face of global conflict. He stressed the world was at an inflection point in our history, with the Gaza war expanding across the Middle East, a humanitarian disaster unfolding in Sudan, and Ukraine still embroiled in what he called Putin's war, and no end in sight for any of these crises. But as many geopolitical analysts argue, alongside the tumultuous US withdrawal from Afghanistan, and with Israel now focusing military efforts on Lebanon, the war in Gaza looks set to be remembered as the final nail in the coffin for Joe Biden's foreign policy legacy. My colleague Mitch McCann joins us with a roundup of the key takeaways.
Since October 7, we've also been determined to prevent a wider war that engulfs the entire region. Hezbollah, unprovoked, joined the October 7th attack, launching rockets into Israel. Almost a year later, too many on each side of the Israeli-Lebanon border remain displaced. A full-scale war is not in anyone's interest. Even as the situation has escalated, a diplomatic solution is still possible. In fact, it remains the only path to lasting security to allow the residents from both countries to return to their homes and the border safely. And that's what we're working tirelessly to achieve.
Joe Biden used his final opportunity to speak to the General Assembly to reflect on his administration's foreign policy successes, which he said included rebuilding Western alliances to support Ukraine. But Biden also sent a warning to world leaders not to waste time in acting to solve some of the planet's biggest crises at the moment. His speech came amid escalating tensions in the Middle East, following Israeli strikes on targets within Lebanon. And speaking of that situation, Biden said we've also been determined to prevent a wider war that engulfs the entire region. And he added that a full-scale war is not in anyone's interest. Amid wars in the Middle East, Ukraine and in Sudan, the 81-year-old president sought to reassure leaders that there is still hope for the future. Biden recounted arriving at the US Senate in 1972, at a time when he said the country was both angry and divided over the war in Vietnam. The president pointed out that the US and Vietnam are now partners and friends, to show, in his words, that things can get better. Mitch McCann, NDTV, at the United Nations in New York.